You're listening to the Chorus One podcast, a show that covers decentralized networks and their impact on the evolution of automated and borderless economies. On this podcast, we invite pioneers and builders to discuss the decentralized protocols and projects they are working on. On the show today, we have Tushar Aggarwal, CEO of Persistence One. Persistence One is a network in the Cosmos ecosystem with bold ambitions to bridge traditional finance to decentralized finance. Already with 5 products outstanding, we took the time to speak with Tushar about Persistence's journey so far. In the show, we discuss the many products of Persistence, their initial use of validating nodes to bootstrap their protocol, their future plans to bring liquid staking to Cosmos, and the importance of interoperability for liquidity, plus so much more.
We're back after a long hiatus for over a year now, and with our new co-host, Xavier.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so we took a break from producing podcasts for a while because we just didn't have the time. Now we heard over the time again that there is a bit of a lack of podcasts that go deep into projects, and we thought, why not bring it back? Also, with a lot of things happening in the proof of stake world and interoperability space that we're active in, we thought we gonna go back to producing some content here. And we have a very good guest for that also on today. That is Tushar from Persistence. Hi, Tushar.
Hi, Felix. Hi, Xavier.
So Tushar, thank you so much for joining us today. Why we're really excited about having you on is that recently we announced, as recent as last week, that we've now onboarded Persistence as one of our proof of stake networks. It's really interesting what you're doing at Persistence. It's sort of targeting a mix of traditional finance and decentralized finance with many products on your chain Persistence. Can you tell us just maybe a high-level overview, please, of what you're building there?
Yeah. First of all, thanks to Chorus One for the support. Finally, I've been trying to chase Felix and Brian Meher for the longest time to onboard Chorus One, over a period of time, and so it's great to get that support. I think in general, in terms of Chorus One, back in the day, I had actually interviewed for Felix's position, the position that Felix is in, and had not made it. Which I guess it's been interesting how I guess our careers have played out. So and so instead of working with with a validator, ended up working with the fund and then started Persistence. But yeah, I mean, essentially my paths with various Chorus One folks have crossed over a period of time. So truly grateful for the support. In terms of Persistence itself, it's been an interesting journey in terms of how we have evolved as well. How I typically explain our product offerings. So I think from a very high level perspective, our journey has been very similar to that of Terra, where Terra has a Tendermint based chain secured by Luna, and they have Chai as a non-crypto user facing application. And essentially, I think Terra kind of struggles to find traction or mindshare as far as at least their token was concerned for a very long period of time, almost 1.5, 2 years, until they came up with Mirror Protocol and Anchor Protocol, which were very crypto native products. So, our thought process at Persistence was very similar to that, where we have a Tendermint based chain. We have Comdex, which is a decentralized commodity trading and trade financing product, focus on non-crypto native users, essentially institutional commodity traders. And now what we're doing is creating a bunch of crypto native applications to complement our product offerings on the institutional side. Very high level, if I were to break down our product offerings, I would break them down into sort of 2 categories. So the first category is on the NFT side. So even Comdex, because Comdex facilitates the trading of physical commodities, and similar to how every crypto kitty is unique, wheat originating from Canada is different from wheat originating from Australia, for example. And so we represent these commodities or bills of lading, which are essentially documents that give you ownership over a commodity through a non-fungible token. So that's the first category of our products. We're doing a couple of other things as well in terms of the NFT framework that we have created, and I guess we'll be kind of digging into that during the podcast. The other vertical is on the proof of stake side. So we've done various things in terms of our journey within the proof of stake world itself. So we did take part in Game of Stakes, Game of Zones, have been involved in the launch of several POS networks. We also run Audit.one, which is a validator node on multiple chains, and are one of the largest validators in Southeast Asia and South Asia, as far as we know. And then we're launching a liquid staking application, and I'm sure we'll dig into that as well, which is called pstake, pstake.finance. So yeah, high level, this is what we're up to at Persistence, and super excited to dig into everything.
No, it sounds like you're doing a lot there, Tushar, and thanks so much for the great overview. In particular, Felix and I were really interested in what made you choose Tendermint. So essentially, with Comdex, what you started with, you're solving a traditional financial problem using blockchain. So what was the thinking behind choosing Tendermint for consensus, first of all, and why the Cosmos ecosystem, and then maybe even what you bring to the Cosmos ecosystem?
Yeah. So essentially, commodity trading and trade financing is a use case that has been talked about quite a bit over a period of time. It's been a very relatively low hanging fruit in the industry. But a lot of folks, especially back in 2016, 17, 18, where private blockchains were a thing, would talk about using, Hyperledger or Corda to solve this problem, especially given that you had institutional folks involved. Our thought process was that, so first of all, Persistence started with a use case, and so essentially the creation of Persistence was a top-down approach where we were focusing on solving a problem, and then realized that a lot of the infrastructure to solve that problem was not available, and so kind of vertically integrated downwards to create the Persistence SDK, and use Tendermint as well for consensus. So, our high level thought process, we did try to build Comdex on, the private blockchain side. On the public blockchain side, explored platforms like Ethereum, Waves, which is the Russian blockchain project. But eventually kind of zeroed down. We had a few folks who were very early Cosmos community members, who were kind of advising us, and we were trying to do things on the public blockchain side, and decided to go with Tendermint, and became early Cosmos community members. The big thing was, I think, a big part of that decision making process was just the folks that we were working with, and some of our early advisors who kind of nudged us in that direction on the public blockchain side after we had made the decision of not using private blockchains at all. And then in terms of using proof of stake consensus, there were not too many options back then. And so it was either Cosmos or Tezos. I think that's the first kind of two proof of stake chains.
Bloom.
Of course, Loom, but Loom had its own kind of issues in terms of Plasma and moving tokens from like one chain to another, and then back. It was like a very cumbersome process. I think I still have some Loom that are stuck somewhere, and haven't gotten it back to the main chain. But yeah, essentially, just in terms of the sort of grassroots community that Cosmos had, plus by virtue of being the first or one of the first in production delegated proof of stake chains, made us choose Cosmos. And yeah, we've been working with Cosmos for a very long time, and have, and just, I think, a few, I guess, like fun facts. So obviously, outside of working, uh, outside of being part of Game of Stakes, Game of Zones, um, we were also, and people talk about interoperability, and most people talk about interoperability from a fungible token perspective. we were the first team in permissioned environments to do a cross-chain transfer of a non-fungible token as well. And that's one of the things that that we're believers in as well. Again, there are BTC maximalists, there are ETH maximalists. We're not maximalists of like for any particular chain. We're just sort of interoperability maximalists, and we believe asset issuance should happen on multiple chains depending on the use case and where the users are.
And what's really interesting, I mean, you touched on a few points there, especially proof of stake networks and interoperability. As you know, Chorus, that's very similar themes to what Chorus really values. And that's why, we're really excited as well to onboard Persistence, who are making such great progress, with proof of stake networks and interoperability in general. And so, I'm really interested, perhaps to those that don't know that are listening. So March 2020, the crypto crash came, and you sort of turned to validating, which is what Chorus One does. And so I think what's quite interesting is that you're sort of building products whilst you're validating different proof of stake networks. And so I think an interesting question might be like, how has your role as a validator influenced some of the products that you've created?
Yeah, so essentially, we had an extremely challenging. We kind of started the project in the depths of the bear market, and we came out of stealth on the 1st of Jan 2020, and I was in San Francisco for a couple of months in Feb and March 2020, before COVID became really bad, and then kind of had to rush back to Asia. But essentially, post the Black Thursday, 12th of March, we we were already struggling to fundraise, and obviously after that, it became even more complex, to fundraise. So just in order to kind of sustain salaries, we started running validator nodes. One of the interesting things that we did was, we we spoke quite a bit to the Terra Foundation, and what we essentially did was we conducted a token swap with Terra Foundation. How we executed that was that we were running validator nodes at 100% commission, and got the foundation to delegate tokens to that particular node. So we would keep all of the Luna rewards, and whatever dollar amount of rewards that was accrued, um, over a certain period of time that, we had agreed upon, an equivalent number of persistence tokens at a certain discount would be given to Terra. So it was essentially like a token swap, but essentially the token swap happened over a long period of time. And then, essentially, so we ran it for about 3-4 months till we were able to successfully, get, raise capital. So I think it's an interesting way to bootstrap projects as well. Obviously, while during the time of this recording, we're in a bull market, relatively speaking, and again, a lot of projects are able to raise capital. But I think just in terms of extremely, like in a bear market, you can have extremely innovative ways of fueling growth, or at least making sure that teams can, sustain themselves, and the proof of stake can play a very interesting role in terms of that as well, in terms of how to bootstrap ecosystems, as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. I think you did a bunch of these like innovative things and also involving proof of stake, which I think a lot of people had thought about, but no one really did. And I guess like this was just now one example. And I think even before like the whole yield farming craze really showed up, with Compound, I guess you were already doing like some other token distribution plans. I actually don't know what the timing was, but the stake drop, right, is also a big kind of yield farming esque thing that a lot of people actually have been thinking about, that were active in the proof of stake world, but no one ever actually did it. So it was super cool to see you doing that. And maybe, yeah, can you talk a little bit about how that went? Maybe also going into the success you saw with that. Did that help you increase like the yeah token holder community, or
Yeah, yeah. So, from a timing perspective, it was actually after the whole yield farming thing started. So Compound came up with their token in June 2020. We launched the stake drop campaign, as we call it. I think it was October 2020, so Q4 last year. And essentially what the stake drop campaign was, that stakers of certain coins um, would receive a very targeted airdrop of the persistence coin. The thought process from our perspective in terms of doing that was to ensure very high quality distribution of the token. So the token essentially, instead of randomly doing airdrops, you end up distributing tokens to folks who are already familiar with staking in the first place. So it was a combination of effective token distribution, a very good marketing tactic, um, in terms of just getting a very wide set of holders and stakers, to hold persistence tokens. Um, in the 3 months that we ran it for 4 chains, which was the Cosmos Hub, Terra, Kava, and Matic Network, we had more than $1 billion worth of staked assets that participated in the stake drop campaign, which actually was a catalyst for us to work on P-Stake, the liquid staking application as well, because it just showed the humongous amount of demand that there is from the end user side to generate additional yields from already staked assets.
And so, yeah, you touched on liquid staking, which is sort of a perfect intro into perhaps the next topic. And yeah, the stake drop is definitely a really interesting way to incentivize stakers in general, and really a novel way of incentivizing the proof of stake ecosystem. And so, when you talk about liquid staking, so as you might know, Chorus One recently announced that we would be building out Lido for Solana, which we're really excited about, and currently building is underway for that. So P-Stake, I believe, is your liquid staking product.
Yep.
Could you please just touch upon what it is you're doing with P-Stake, maybe how it could be different to other solutions, and maybe what your competitive advantage might be with P-Stake?
Yeah. So essentially, what we're doing is, again, creating liquidity for staked assets, which I think all liquid staking applications are doing. So Lido, Rocket Pool, a few others, Stakewise, I think are focused purely on ETH2. Obviously, Lido has gone beyond that and is working with Anchor very closely for B Luna, and working with the Chorus One team for Solana. What our thought process and how we're going about P-Stake is, that we're doing, so we'll be going to market with atoms, and other Tendermint based coins post that. We're using a two token model, as opposed to the one token model that is most popularly used. Even within one token model, and I can kind of talk a little bit more about this. Even within the one token model, there are two variations that are used, but essentially, due to multiple things that we're trying to do, um, and the design considerations that we kept in mind, we decided to go with a two token model. What is the two token model? We make a differentiation between a staked coin and an unstaked coin. So we've developed a custom bridge between the Cosmos Hub and Ethereum, and that's also because we didn't want to create dependencies on IVC or implementations of other teams for the bridge between Cosmos Hub and Ethereum. Um, when you bring your atoms into the Ethereum ecosystem, you initially start off with an unstaked coin, and you can choose to keep, which we call a USTK atom. So you can choose to keep it as an unstaked atom, and you can choose to convert that USTK atom into an STK atom, which stands for a staked atom. Um, as long as you hold STK atoms in your wallet, you keep accruing USTK atoms in the background, um, which is how staking actually works. If you lock up your atoms, the rewards that you're getting come in the form of unstaked coins. Um, so you can, similar to how you can, claim your rewards in terms of unstaked coins at any time. You can do that on the platform. if you decide to move from STK Atom to USTK Atom, which is moving from staked atom to unstaked atom, you can wait for a 21-day period and get your unstaked coins back. So that's the very basic functionality of the pstake application. The other thing that we're doing is we're creating a fundamentally new product and marketplace, which we call the redemption pool. The redemption pool is essentially a marketplace that matches holders of staked coins to holders of unstaked coins. And so for most Tendermint based chains, the unbonding period is 21 days. So in this redemption pool, on one side, you have the liquidity providers of unstaked coins. And on the other hand, you have folks who are holding on to staked coins and want to get these unstaked coins. The folks who want early redemption can define a period between 1 to 21 days when they want liquidity. And based on the amount of liquidity that there is in terms of unstaked coins, the platform would charge a dynamic fee based on how early you want the tokens and how much liquidity is there on the platform, to give you 1:1 tokens back. Obviously charge a fee in the middle, and most of that fee goes to the liquidity providers of unstaked coins. So this is a fundamentally new product that we've created. Why did we create this? Like if you go to Anchor today, if you want to move from B Luna to Luna, there are two ways to go about it. One is obviously you wait 21 days. And the second way is that you move from B Luna to Luna through TerraSwap. And but what that leads to is, if you're a small B Luna holder, it's fine. But if you have a huge amount of B Luna, the slippage is insane in terms of moving from B Luna to Luna. So in this case, because everything is first of all backed up by atoms in the first place and pegged 1:1, you can essentially get the same amount of atoms back from the redemption pool. We will of course have the functionality to move in and out of these staked coins through dexes, but what we're also doing is providing the end users with a fundamentally new option, which is the redemption pool, which allows holders of staked coins to move from staked coins into unstaked coins. So and again, obviously the two token model really helps in terms of creating this marketplace. So these were some of the kind of very just in terms of why we went with the two token model. The other reason why we went with the two token model also is, for example, what Lido is doing with STETH. So the number of STETH keeps increasing. So like I mentioned, with a single token model, there are two ways in which you can have a single token model. You have like the Staffy kind of model, which is following what C token does within the compound ecosystem, or what A token does within Aave, where you have one token, but the value of that coin keeps increasing because that coin keeps accruing staking rewards. And then you have the other, you have the Lido way of doing it, where your STETH is always equal to 1 ETH and your STETH balance keeps increasing. But you have certain constant token balance AMMs, including Uniswap, where you can't have the token balance increase. And so that affects the composability. So Curve does not have this problem, which is why you have the STETH pool for Lido. And I think, as far as I understand, Lido's trying to solve that problem through the creation of WSTETH. And so essentially that comes down to a sort of a two token model. Obviously, ETH2 has its own complexities because ETH2 itself is not live, whereas atoms are live, and so you can actually move back ultimately to the same amount of atoms that you started with, of course having accounted for fees and things like that. So this was the to reduce slippage, to create a fundamentally new product, which is the redemption pool marketplace, and to not run into problems around the constant token balance AMMs like Uniswap. We went with this two token model. Um, yeah, and yeah, initially we're doing the asset issuance on Ethereum. So kind of taking lead from what worked really well with Mirror protocol, where on Mirror protocol you can do asset issuance on Terra, or you can do asset issuance on ETH, with ETH having the maximum amount of composability today. Um, so we're starting off to bootstrap P-Stake. We're starting off with asset issuance on Ethereum so that we can leverage of some of the composability that exists. And then over a period of time, we'll do asset issuances on other chains, including persistence.
Okay. Yeah, super cool. Thanks for like also expanding on the differences between the token models. I think that was really good. Probably a lot of people learned a lot on this one. I think like one thing that's really interesting, of course, is now you have the staked atom or whichever token, and that is staked with like validators, right? Or how does this
Yeah.
part work in P-Stake?
Yeah. So again, we have we'll work with anywhere between 8 to 10 validators, and initially to remove complexity, we'll try to keep the distribution of the stake almost equal across these 8 to 10 validators. Over a period of time, we can what our plan is to do is to have sort of unequal distribution based on certain parameters, which could be uptime, performances of various validators, whether we want to work with smaller validators or larger validators or a mix of the two. It can also be over a period of time be determined by the community through governance in terms of what they feel is the best way to distribute the stake itself. But yeah, I mean, again, we'll be working with a bunch of validators through whom the assets that P-Stake is attracting will be distributed to.
So these decisions, or like, there's probably a role of the basically the persistence token in all of this, in a way that is like, or it sounds like it will turn into the governance token also for these decisions of
Yeah.
the validators. Is there any like other like, how does value accrue maybe from the P-Stake program, or like smart contract to the
Yep.
persistence holders?
Yeah. So the token aspect, and especially in terms of governance of the application itself, I mean, it's something that we're trying to figure out at this stage. But in terms of value accrual to the persistence token, it's fairly straightforward. So we'll be charging fees at different stages the of the P-Stake platform. So obviously, like a certain amount of wrapping fees, which 0.35%, which is fairly standard across most bridges. Taking part of the staking rewards, and then charging a small fee on the redemption pool mechanism that I described earlier. So these will be the three key sources of fees for P-Stake, and yeah, and then part of that fees is going to be distributed to XPRT stakers. Again, that is something that we're figuring out. Is that, are we going to take all these fees, because this fees is going to come in various POS tokens, right? So our fees, if we launch for Atoms, the fees is coming in Atoms. If we do it for Luna, the fees is coming in Luna. Do we take all those fees and then do like a market buy of persistence token and distribute it to XPRT stakers? Or again, that mechanism is something that we're still trying to figure out. And in general, even from Comdex, for example, right now Comdex is not revenue generating, but as it starts to scale up and becomes revenue generating, um, the fees coming from Comdex as well will be used to do the same thing for the persistence token. So our goal is to have at least a part of the fees from all of the applications to be flowing to the XPRD stakers, with the longer term goal of ensuring that validators and delegators, um, essentially you don't need to rely on inflation to incentivize validators and delegators. Yeah.
Sounds somewhat similar almost to what Anchor Protocol are doing, where how they liquidate some of the B Luna rewards, basically and obviously the depositors get the reward in UST. I could maybe imagine something like that. Persistence doing some liquidation sort of protocol even in itself. And so yeah, Tusha, you've touched on a lot of products. I mean, we haven't even had the time to mention all of the products so far, but maybe I'd like to finish off with so basically persistence. You know, you focus on DeFi and staking, like we've touched on a little bit today. We haven't mentioned the NFT side as much, but you know, you use NFTs basically for bills of lading, etc., and some of your protocols. And so you mentioned in a recent podcast that there's sort of three pillars that you're focusing on, which is DeFi, proof of stake, and also NFTs. And so I guess I'd really be interested for your future plans. Do you think there'll be more pillars? Are you more focused on the interoperability of these three pillars? Where can you see persistence going in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, high level, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast itself, if you look at our product offerings, they fall into two categories. It's either on the NFT side, or on the proof of stake side. And regardless of whether you're on the NFT side or proof of stake side, you know they're all financial applications, so hence the three pillars. From our perspective, we just call it, I mean, even if you look at our name, right, it's just persistence.one. Like, we don't call ourselves persistence network or persistence protocol. Persistence protocol is one part of persistence.one. So we'll always come up with more products and newer products. That's how we've designed our team as well. So we're a team of 26 people at this stage, and so we have sort of horizontal, business functions like research, design, marketing, growth, community, documentation, writing, the management itself, and then we have sort of multiple product verticals, or like product heads or mini CTOs of sorts, who look after various things. That could include our validator node, audit one. It could include persistence, the protocol itself. It could include pstake, the application, and other things that we're doing. So we've, and I think, again, there are different, like, the ethos of how Cosmos came about. Cosmos is extremely, from a team perspective as well, very decentralized, which is a weakness and a strength at the same time. But if you look at something like, if I may take this example, like Terra, it's run like an organization. Now I think they're getting to be more decentralized and getting other folks to build on top of them, because they were able to achieve product market fit at some level for one or two of their products. So our thought process is very similar, that it's very difficult to, like, bootstrap a new ecosystem. And so the initial key product has to come from the team itself. And so we've kind of vertically integrated upwards to owning the chain layer as well, owning the SDK, and owning the application. And then over a period of time, our goal is that as we, depending on how pstake does, and as we, get, product market fit, and those kinds of things, we'll be able to get other folks to, build using pstake, or build using some of the other functionalities that we've created on the NFT side. But
And
yeah.
I might have one final question as well, just to wrap up, Tushar. Sorry, but so you're building a lot of these decentralized finance products, and so really innovative. You got liquid staking, maybe some other products in the future. I guess whilst you build these products, is there a big effort to try and bring the traditional financial world in? Like, is that as big of an importance as building some of these products? Do you think?
I guess yes and no. I think traditional finance operates at a pace which is very different to the pace of crypto. So while the longer term vision is to bring more and more kind of traditional financial products, into crypto, and for persistence to work on them, I think on the shorter term side, our goal is to work on extremely crypto native products, which helps to build our brand, which helps us to get better capitalized, which helps us to attract better talent, which we can then leverage on to kind of realize our longer term vision. So it's sort of like a multi-year, multi-decade sort of play, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. All right, we might wrap up, Tushar, if that's all right. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been really interesting, getting to know more about what you're doing at Persistence. It's fantastic to see all these products come out. Felix will also sign off, I think.
Thanks Tushar again, and awesome to hear more about P-Stake. I think we're really interested in seeing like liquid staking on Cosmos. It has been a long time that people have been thinking about this, and like various projects kind of working on it, but never really going to market. So I think it sounds like P-Stake might be the first, and I'm really excited also about the redemption pool and some of the mechanisms there. Of course, there's probably like another podcast that one could do just on that, but I'm sure you'll have some more information about that. I guess probably like some documentation. You mentioned documentation as one of the horizontal features, so I'm sure you'll be able to give us some links that we can also put in the show notes so people can look up how P-Stake works, how to participate. Is there any final thing you want to tell people, how to get engaged with Persistence and maybe how to stake with Chorus One? Or
No, absolutely, yeah. So I mean, first of all, thank you so much, guys. It was a great, I think, a great episode. And I mean, I think the best place to reach out to Persistence and to me is, I think, Twitter is something I'm extremely active on. Twitter, Telegram, email, of course. And yeah, Chorus One just got onboarded as a validator on Persistence. So it'd be awesome to for the community at large to support Chorus One and make it one of the leading validators. I know Chorus One is one of the largest or the largest validator for a lot of the big chains out there. So it'd be an absolute honor for Chorus One to be one of the larger validators for Persistence as well.
No, Tushar, and thank you so much. It was a bit of a shame for me at the start to hear that I could have been working with a cooler guy than Felix. But thank you so much for your time. And all the best, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you.